so glad again to be here with you. I am deeply honored and privileged, Monique, to join you here today at the Southside Community Arts Center. I had the privilege of meeting and going to Africa with one of the founders, the one who was probably recognized the most because she was the loudest among the founding members, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, who started the center right across the street in the basement of her home. And here we are, some 80 plus years later, and you are still going strong. What is significant about going strong is that this center was recognized as one of the few arts institutions that came into fruition, or not fruition, but were supported through the Works Progress Administration, and back in the 1940s as well. And they are the only ones to still be standing. Let's give you all, this institution, a round of applause for sustainability and longevity. But the question for you, Monique, is what is the secret to sustainability? Why have you, this institution, I don't want to put it all on you, but why has this institution survived when all the other 100 dissolved?
So let me first say, thank you all for being here today. Thank you to Pigment International and Patricia. Get well soon. We miss you and love you. Thank you, Devorah, for walking me through this opportunity. I am the executive director for the Southside Community Arts Center. I started with the center in April 2019 as an interim executive director. I came off of the board. And then in December of 2019, I became the full executive director. You asked about longevity. We're 83 years strong. Next year will be our 84th year. And I think it's just the love, the passion, the perseverance. You mentioned Dr. Margaret Burroughs. The spirits of those ancestors and the way that they just determined how pivotal and important having a Black-centered institution for artists was and is and still remains. So that's really been the secret, is the community, the artists, the purpose, the mission, the importance of something so meaningful to so many. We think about it, in 1940, we had a different political climate. I could almost say we had a different political climate because we all know as much as things change, they still remain the same. But that was really one of the main focuses for bringing this institution together, was to have a place that Black artists could come, could be free, could be themselves, could mingle, could actually interact, learn from, and be taught by other Black artists. For those that could go to a university, they came back and they taught other artists. There was a new practice, a new way of doing something. They taught each other. The stories are so many, and I promise you that every week I learn something new. Someone says, remember, we used to have a fish fry on the 3rd floor, and it's like, it's a wooden building. And and they are like, yeah, but it was good, every Friday we did it. But that's really why I think the significance and importance. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the artists who banded together, who knew it was important. The community leaders, the community folks who said, I'll give $5, I'll give $10, I'll give what I can to make it work. There's a story of Dr. Burroughs with, the March of Dimes, and her out, asking people for just a dime, because, when you ask people for money, they're like, I got nothing, just a dime, give me what you can. It was that passion that I think lets us stand today.
Do you also think that by encouraging the community to have a stakeholder interest in this institution makes a huge difference? I think the fact that they were able to put their dimes, their hard-earned dimes, into buying this building and then saying, this is what we want as stakeholders in our community. And you're still on that kind of a mission today.
Absolutely. So when I think about the significance of a Black-owned institution, we're in Bronzeville. So Bronzeville is seeing a resurgence, from the historic past that we've all known, or many of us know about, and many of us are learning about. The founders, that committee, they had a commitment and they recognized the importance of pulling the money together to buy this building. If I don't remember the exact cost, but it was approximately $8,000. So we can think about that today in today's world. We probably add several zeros at the very least. And so we are this is the other part that I think is important. We're one of the rare institutions that owns the building, that owns the lots to the left and to the right of us. And so that significant financial portion of our daily lives means that we don't have that encumbrance. And so many institutions that didn't survive, they didn't own the buildings, and so it made a difference.
How great of a role, based on your expertise coming from high finance and banking with Northern Trust for many, many years. And we spoke earlier about your many different careers. But understanding how money works, the ecosystem for money, how to get money, keep money, and the value of money. How has that helped you develop this institution under your leadership?
So this institution is so important to me and to all of the team that works here, the board, the community, the artists. But one of the things that when I came on board that was really important to me was we've got 83 years of history. I mean, we're talking about all the artists that the young, the emerging, the established artists that you know. Why are we still trying to figure out how to operate? When I look at institutions that have been around maybe less time than us, the difference has been they were able to raise the money. They understood that a nonprofit, though structured differently, is still a business. And you still have the same issues. You've got to have payroll. You want light. You want heat. You need someone to maintain the facilities. In order to grow, you need to be able to bring on new people. If you want an exhibition, we need microphones. We need things. And the only way to do that is that you've got to raise some funds. So I was armed with the passion of being able to tell our story and to tell grants institutions, foundations, just how critical this institution is. I mean, there are people right now that we have that come to visit us and they will say, I've lived around the corner for years. I didn't know you all existed. There are people, we had a big group yesterday that came from all over the country and they said, I'd never heard of you all. Well, in my mind, that's a travesty. We're 83 years. Why haven't we been known better? Well, that takes the work of amazing folks. We've got an individual she's in the room here, our public engagement manager. She is doing a phenomenal job with our social media. That's the Kia. Miss O'Neill, with our social media, with our weekly newsletters, with our programs. That helps people recognize us. And you mentioned the WPA. Well, that was out of DC. So that's a national, that ought to be a broader reach. It really boils down to people understanding our story. Because I promise you, once people know the story of the Southside Community Arts Center, they get to know the team here, they get to really understand who the artists have been. There's a special place that most of us find for this institution.
And I can remember the stories as well, because I certainly wasn't here. But what we want everyone to really appreciate is that this was founded by the titans of Black art back in the day.
Absolutely.
We're talking about not only Dr. Burroughs, Charles White, Elizabeth Catlett, Gordon Parks. These were the big names in Black arts back in the day. And this was the gathering center for all artists, be they fine artists, performing artists, literary artists, they all gathered in this spot. And does it still have that same kind of life, vibrancy, and magnetism today?
So I would say the answer is yes, but let me share my answer. In the 83 years, there have been dips. I mean, it depends. There have been moments where, some community stakeholders, some individual had to write a check. The water heater broke, the furnace broke, and they said, this is too important, we're going to write a check. What I'm super excited about is, for example, this current exhibition. We had over 100 plus young people here celebrating that exhibition. We are seeing the next generation of artists, community, coming and supporting and learning, in many cases, about the Southside Community Arts Center. And they want to be a part. We're experiencing, Marty Worrell is our membership and volunteer manager. She has been amazing with telling the story to folks, to tell them, you want to be a volunteer. So we've got volunteers coming in that are helping us do whatever we need to do. We also have some individuals who have been around and they're coming back. So what's exciting for me is the answer is yes. New individuals are coming in and learning about the center. Those established artists and community stakeholders are coming back and saying, oh, okay, I like what you all are doing.
Yeah.
And that is, once again, that is because the team that's here is doing a phenomenal job with representing the center and sharing their passions with us.
Just as an observer, I would also have to add to that is that you all have an uncanny ability of knowing how to maintain relevancy and the issue of inclusion. And as communities evolve, the center has evolved, and which I think is a big draw for people to say, I am welcome to this space.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you have expanded those audiences and your appeal to diverse communities?
So the most interesting part of that story is that we've always had diverse communities here. I think the issue more so is that people didn't really know that, or we didn't talk about how diverse our communities were. Last year we did an exhibition called Emergence, and it talked about the individual artists who have always been a part of the Southside Community Arts Center. We are focused now on individual groups and things and calling them, different categories. But what's most important is everybody is welcome here. I mean, this is an institution for artists, for people who appreciate art, who are people who want to learn more about art. They want to come in and they just want to learn about history. So what has been really important is opening the doors and saying all are welcome and putting your money where your mouth is and having the type of exhibitions that open the doors to everyone and say, we want you here.
I would also have to give a nod to your curatorial team.
Absolutely.
Knowing how to have a pulse on the community and knowing what needs to be showcased.
Absolutely. So I don't see our curator and exhibitions manager right now, but Lola Akbara has been amazing. And she has been innovative in terms of saying, let's try something different. Last month we had a black box show where we had movie screenings. We haven't done that, in my knowledge, for quite a while. That was something different. And every time, as you well know, every time you try something new and innovative, you have people who say, that's not what we're used to. My thought is, why not? Why not expose our community to art in all of its many forms?
The importance of having this place alive and connected to community for you. You, coming from high finance, understand the value of the dollar. Now you're talking about the value of our other currency, which is our art, our aesthetic. So what does that mean to you to be able to redefine that on your terms and then export that value globally?
Okay. So first of all, I'm an art collector. I've been collecting art for over 20 years. Most art collectors don't always think of themselves as being art collectors, and then one day you say, well, I'm not a collector, and then you realize you've got a lot of art at your house. And the answer is yes, you are a collector. So that passion started for me when I was young. My mom used to drag me to art fairs, and I say for all parents, all those things that you're doing. We've got a family to be coming. All those things that you're doing to expose your kids, our kids. At the time, they may not like it. They were like, yeah, why do I have to go do this? And then you look up, and one day it's part of your DNA. And I think that's what happened to me with art. Literally every art fair, Lake Meadows, Hyde Park, Gold Coast, every and any art fair my mom took me to, and so it just felt really natural for me. The high finance is interesting because that's what made me recognize what was missing. There really wasn't culture missing, there wasn't art, there wasn't anything else. It was defining for this institution that it needed to have the support, the financial support. That's really it. It had everything else. If you've never been here before, we're in the Dr. Margaret Burroughs Gallery. There's wood paneling all around. There are little holes, and you may say, okay, they need new paneling. No. Every hole on the wall is a space that an artist has hung their work. It could have been Dr. Margaret Burroughs. It could have been Charles White. It could be Fahim Majid. It could be anyone. They hung their work here. And so if you ran your hand across the wall, you're really running your hand across history. There's just so much history here. The culture. I don't think, I guess we could say this every year, that there's ever been a more important time for us to really continue to talk about the importance of culture, Black culture, the importance of teaching our kids, the importance of teaching each other. As we gain through social media, I thought I knew a lot of history. I'm learning so much more because history has not been shared and broadly given to us. And so it is incumbent on us to be the griots to share with each other. And this center allows us to do that in a way that maybe other institutions don't.
Yeah, I've always felt that art is probably the most pure, authentic expression of who we are, where we've been, where we're going, and what we might possibly become, because there are no filters.
Yes.
It's our experience, and then it's just directly shared through our art expression. So when we think in terms of that, and we have here in our company today, Melanin Minds, the healing of art for community and its capacity for us to live into the best of who we are and can possibly be. The importance of that to you and the work that you do here through the center.
So you just made me think a little bit heavily about that. And thank you again to Melanin Minds for being a part of this conversation and being here today. We need a lot of healing. Our community needs a lot of healing. And this didn't just happen yesterday. This is 200 plus years of healing and nurturing. And as a Black woman, what they say is they're so strong and, Black don't crack. And what I say is Black don't crack on the outside, but on the inside, we carry some of the highest burdens of most healthcare problems because we have covered ourselves and we've said, we will be here. It's okay. Hop on board, get on our back and we will be okay. And in the long run, that perseverance has been important, but the physical health, our mental health has been impacted. And art for me is one of those things that allows expression. Whether you're someone who, like our friend Linnell Davis, who is also our videographer and photographer, that's an important part of telling the story, of getting the pain out, of sharing. And maybe you're not a creative, or at least you don't think you are today, because I think we all have a creative tendency. It's just how we express it. You get to observe what somebody else did. And when I'm looking right behind you and I'm looking at this amazing garment that Emeka and friends put together, you know, that's unbelievably fascinating. And I mean, it's gorgeous. Somebody did that. Somebody had the creativity to think about what can we do to share our passions, to share our pains. And art for me does all of those things. And the more artists that I've met over these last decades of my life, the more I know that they're gifts. They're sharing their gifts.
Yeah.
They're sharing their passions. And all art forms are important.
The power of art also to define our humanity, our shared humanity. Went to see a production by Pearl Cleage last evening at the Goodman Theater. It was all about high society, and then you have this element of scandal that pops in. The majority of the audience was not black like me, but they enjoyed it as much as I did. And they weren't laughing at, they were laughing with, because you could tell, oh, I know those people. Art, even in this space, how does it define our shared humanity and bring us closer together in terms of a global community?
So it's a common denominator. I mean, we can all look at something and say we like that. Or we can all look at something and say, it's not my favorite, it's not what I would have done. But we're all human. We all have the ability to enjoy something, to learn from something, to experience. I'm really excited about the fact that we, to your point earlier, are welcoming new audiences. And those new audiences are saying, this is amazing. This history here is amazing. This space is amazing. And art does that. I mean, you don't have to have any special training to see and enjoy art. It's nice when you do, but you don't have to. You can develop art, you can create art, you can just enjoy and appreciate. It's a common theme amongst humans that we all feel different things. And so I look at this piece to my right, and they're photos. It's a photo montage that he pulled together. And it makes me think about my own photo montages of my family and friends, and we all have them. Most of us have them in our phones, and they don't leave the phones anymore. But just thinking about, we all have that shared experience in some form or another.
And now you're able to share these experiences globally at the push of a finger. Coming through COVID, which is when you really harness the reins here, what did that opportunity afford for you? Was it a blessing in disguise, or did it thwart your progress in some degree?
Are you saying COVID or just the digital capabilities?
Well, we can talk about both, but
Okay.
the experience of COVID first.
Okay.
What did it afford you in terms of coming in as a new ED?
It was frightening. I mean, let's face it. I came in December. We're January, February. I'm gung ho. We had the most well-attended event in February. It was a panel discussion with several artists talking about their artist professional development and the practice. And the room was packed, and everybody said, when's part two? We need to see part two. We were pumped, and I was like, okay. Some of the women in the audience said, they were all male on the panel. They said, we need a women's panel. Okay, I'm making notes. We're gonna get a women's panel. We're gonna do all of this. And then all of a sudden, you start hearing about this crazy thing. And in my lifetime, I mean, I'd read about some pandemics, but I had not experienced one. And I don't think any of us really knew what to expect. And many of us didn't even know. I mean, I thought maybe this would be a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. I unfortunately at the time had to downsize. That was painful. I just got here. And I'm thinking, oh God, what did I sign up for? This is crazy. How are we going to do this?